All right, welcome back. Well, you might have heard, it's all over the place about the threat of emergency subject matter. To discuss that this morning, we're joined by Mr. Emeka Etiaba, Senior Advocate of Nigeria from our studios in Abuja. Good morning, and thank you for joining us on the program today. Well, this has certainly got a lot of perspectives out there, legal and otherwise. Well, we're very familiar with developments there and the law, with historical background as well. So could you tell us in context, when you heard this, and then in context of what's playing out in Anambra, what do you think?
Yeah, good morning, Chamberlain. Good morning, viewers. I had this news yesterday, and to the effect that the Attorney General of the Federation addressed the press after the Federal Executive Council meeting and said that the federal government is thinking of proclaiming a state of emergency in Anambra State. And my first take on it is I had a rumor that such a thing could happen about a month back. And then I'm hearing something that looks like we're going towards that direction. My second take is that Anambra State has been the safest state in Nigeria up until about just quite a few months back, less than 3 months back. You know, in Anambra State, if you hear that a robbery took place in any community, within a few hours, the people are fished out, and it rarely happened. But now things have changed. I go the next step, which is federal government intends to consider that as an option, and the Attorney General tied his view or his briefing to the election of November 6, 2021, governorship election. And I asked two questions. The first question is, what has the federal government done to stop the violence that is taking place in Anambra and beyond Anambra State? Two, how does a state of emergency actually ensure that we have free and fair election in Anambra State? You know, these are the two questions that I am pondering over. And we need answers to them, otherwise people may begin to think that their fears, the fears they started expressing a few months back, are coming to pass. That's my take for now, and then, but I'm sure I'm not here to talk the politics of it. I'm here to talk the law of it. So as you lead me, I will continue to talk. Thank you.
Oh yeah, does that then mean that, for instance, if government says, look, if this is what we have to do to ensure that we forestall any further loss of lives and property, and if it's the main option that they think they have, you're saying that that may not be the case?
No, that is not exactly what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that the decision to proclaim a state of emergency is tied to the election of November 6, 2021. And I say that if you look at Section 305 of the Constitution, which empowers the President to proclaim a state of emergency in any part of the country or country as a whole, and then you go to Section 45 of the same Constitution, which actually tells you the implication of a state of emergency, then you begin to see that that a state of emergency cannot guarantee an election holding in Anambra on November 6. What am I talking about? If there's a proclamation for state of emergency, and you go to Section 45 of the Constitution, you find out that a state of emergency connotes that every personal right from Sections 33 to 41 of the Constitution is kept in abeyance, because personal rights will have to be wished away for public right and public duty and public safety to take the center stage. So if what we are told is that there's need to suspend personal rights so that public right and public duty and public safety and all will be ensured, then we'll look at it at that point. But if anybody is saying that unless that is done, election may not take place in Anambra, I don't know, it cannot. It's counterproductive because both of them, the state of emergency entails a total elimination of democratic norms and institutions and practice. An election has to do with democratic practice, you know. And then before you get to that level, that stage, you as the federal government will have to take some steps to stem the violence. What steps has the government taken? You know, the killings and the maimings and all that you have seen in the past few days, they actually happened close to my house in the village. So I'm not discussing Borno State. I'm discussing Nnewi, Anambra State. And then again, if you look at the conditions for proclamation of a state of emergency in a state, you also see that Anambra has not qualified, because the Constitution specifically says that that violence has to be contained in the particular state where the proclamation will take place. Now it is common knowledge that there are killings in Imo State, there are killings in Anambra State, there are killings in Enugu State. You know, of course, there are killings in Abia. So why are you stigmatizing Anambra State, you know, for a state of emergency? My own is very simple. If you are sick and you go to hospital, the doctor will not begin to say you're going under the knife. No, the doctor will first of all look at you, look at the symptoms, look at your history, and then conduct tests and say this is the problem, and then this will be the solution. Has anybody told us what the problem is in Anambra State? Nobody knows what the problem is. We are left to our own conjecture. Some people are saying it is imported violence. Some people are saying no, it is homegrown. Some people are saying it is politically motivated. Everybody talks from different sides of the mouth. And first of all, we'll have to look at what the problem is before you now begin to tell us that you're wielding the big stick. I don't know what the problem is. I really do not know. Because like I said at the beginning, Anambra has been #1 on security. Everybody knows it. We flaunt it. The governor flaunts it. So why now and why this way?
But if you look at some of the provisions of the law, because, I mean, we've even heard certain people say, well, okay, look at the conditions first. That section 305, which you reference, 3 says, the president shall have powers to issue a proclamation of a state of emergency only when A, the federation is at war, the federation is in imminent danger of invasion or involvement in a state of war, there is actual breakdown of public order and public safety in the federation or any part thereof to such extent as to require extraordinary measure to restore peace and security. There is a clear and present danger of an actual breakdown of public order and safety in the federation, any part thereof requiring extraordinary measures to avert such danger. And then it lists several others. So does that mean that they cannot cite some of this? Because if these interpretations, aren't they usually to a large extent subjective for them to think, well, how do you know when exactly there is a clear sign of breakdown? Because if people are dying, isn't that sufficient to cite some of these clauses?
Thank you, Chamberlain. Like I said earlier, it is very straightforward. Killings in Nigeria are no longer news. They kill from Borno to Sokoto, Sokoto to Kebbi, down to everywhere, Middle Belt. They kill every day. And so if killings and violence and threat of violence will be the threshold, then virtually the entire country has to go on a state of emergency. But as a lawyer, I am looking at the statement made by the Attorney General. It was tied to the governorship election of Anambra State of the 6th of November. It wasn't a blanket statement. And so I view their decision or their intention based on what we have been told. We have been told that that will ensure the election takes place. And I'm saying that will ensure that the election will not take place. And even if it takes place, it will not be a free and fair election. And then I leave it at that. If you read down section 305, the subsections, you get to the point where it tells you that before such proclamation will be made, it will only be made, the violence or threat of violence will be domesticated in the state. It does not go beyond the borders. In fact, the Constitution, I think, used the word borders. And I'm asking you, the violence that you hear about, does it not go beyond Anambra State borders? It goes. Imo State is not asleep. They are burning down police stations. They are doing all sorts. It's just that Anambra State has received an unfair share this time around. A friend of mine was killed in Nsukka 2 nights ago, head of vigilante of his community and his deputy. And they were killed and the place burned down. The vigilante office burned down. That's not Anambra, that's Enugu. So what I'm saying is very simple. You know, for some of us who are lawyers and have also had stint with politics, we know that all is not well with the country. And we know that most times abuse comes on with most of the decisions that are taken. I'll give you an example. The body language of Southeasterners is that they don't even want to see army on the street and all that because of the way they conduct their own security measures, humiliation there, extortion of money, abuse of ladies and all that. But we've gotten to a point where we are saying, oh, even that point, that one is even more tolerable than what we are seeing today. But again, has the government tried it? Bringing in federal security forces to at least calm down the place? Has it failed? At what point have we started talking about state of emergency?
So a couple of fundamental questions
here.
Pardon me, you have raised a couple of issues. And, I mean, it takes us back to the fundamentals. Yes. On the one hand, I mean, why do we have to have this sort of violence in the build-up to elections? And it's something we've seen time and again. And I mean, it's understandable the perspective you have brought in. I mean, referencing some other states and the spate of violence and killings we've seen in those states. But on the one hand, do you see this? It appears as though people see this as a statement of intention rather than caution, as though this is the plan from the federal government. And I think that's largely the response we've seen from even the government, political parties, seeing this as though it's part of a plan of the federal government to ensure that this is enforced. So perhaps you might want to also look at it from that perspective. Do you see this as a statement of intent, like this is part of a plan that is being played out? You're a politician as well, and I'm sure you see the trends. Or you think this is just a mere caution? Because looking at the statement or listening to the Attorney General, it says that they would ensure that elections take place, ensure that security is being put out, and then added that, well, we're not ruling out a state of emergency, perhaps if things get worse. So do you think that this is just a mere caution or a statement of intent?
Thank you very much. Before I answer that, let me correct a narrative that is wrong. In Anambra State, until a few months back, no strand of hair has been lost by reason of conduct of election or campaigns. We pride ourselves in it. No human life has ever been lost during campaigns or elections in Anambra, no matter how highly contested the election is. It has never happened. Not one cup of blood, not one drop of blood has ever dropped from any human being in Anambra, be that policeman, be that politician, be that from the electorate. It has never happened. And that is why some of us sit back today and ask ourselves, where are we coming from? And where are we going to? This is not Anambra people. It cannot be Anambra people. An Anambra man can abuse you on the television, on the telephone, anywhere. But we have a lot of respect for blood. We never deal with blood, you know, and that is why you see us dealing with each other across party level. We discuss, we talk, we are jolly good fellas. This is strange.
Just a minute.
One.
I mean, we need to go to break, but we'll return and let you continue your train of thought in just a moment. Stay with us. All right, so could you please go ahead and make the point?
Okay, thank you once again. Yeah, but the question is whether it's a statement of intent or it is actual. And I will take you back to the Bible, because the Bible is actually the supreme word, is the word of God. And the Bible said in Genesis that God wanted to create this world, and he said, let there be light. And what followed? Light followed. Every human being should know that next to God is political power. And if a government moves an intention, you don't rule out the possibility that the government is going towards that area. So I know as a fact that it's a statement of intention or intent, but it also behoves on Ndi Anambra and Nigerians to discuss it so that we look at the pros and the cons. You know, we're discussing it today because the state of emergency has not come. If it has come, then we can't be talking about it, because it takes away even the right for you to air any opinion, for you to associate with anybody, for you to own property, for you to anything, any personal right that you have is eroded. You go to section 45 of the Constitution. So it's an intention, yes, but that intention is what will give birth to a decision which will eventually give birth to the reality.
So quickly, I mean, you said that regarding politics and election, there hasn't been violence of sorts. Well, I recall in April, I think the governorship candidate of APGA, Sachikuma Soludo, had this political meeting with, I think, youths, and I'm sure you recall that event where there was an attack, policemen were killed, and, you know, we've seen that trend, and for a lot of people, those were signals, things that were pointing to perhaps what we're seeing right now. So I'm not sure, are you trying to say that these killings we are seeing are not politically inclined, perhaps something else is at play? Maybe you want to share some insights with us.
Yeah, the example you just gave actually supports my own position that before this election, it never happened. You're discussing what has happened during the campaigns and all, you know. So it is happening now, not before this election. That's number one. Number two is that the fact that you're asking me an opinion as to what is going on means that the powers that be have not actually come out with what is going on, information on what is going on. You know, growing up many years back, I used to hear security report. And those institutions that furnished us with security reports are still there. I would have expected the security report to reveal what is going on, because a lot is going on, and these people know better than we do. I can only tell you from my own standpoint, and I know in part, I don't know in full. Government knows it all, and that is why I said that before the Attorney General made that statement, maybe it would have been nice for the people to know what is going on, where it is coming from, so that we can now begin to appreciate whatever decision federal government will take. They have not told us what is going on. We're all groping. Everybody, you come up, if you're a member of APGA, you say APC wants a state of emergency so that they will snatch power from you. If you're a member of APC, you say, no, this is the time to have a state of emergency. If you're from PDP, you have your own position. So these are market talk. They are not real. We need to hear from the government what is going on in Anambra State. I'll give you an example. A man like Dr. Chuo Kongu, who was Minister for Finance under the IBB government, who did so well for the country. He's in his late 80s now. He's about 88, 89 years. His house was burnt the other day. What is the problem? He's not a politician. He's not even in the village. He's so quiet. I don't even think his site is good enough to participate in any meaningful social event. And then his house is burnt down, you know. So when you ascribe some to political activities, you look at the other side and you see that no, it's not all political activities. So there's need for us to be briefed on what is going on in our place so that we'll understand it. Many months back, I took a break from these interviews, and so I've not been talking. And but when I did talk about 2 years ago and a year and a half ago, I said it in channels. I said we are endangered. You know, people, Nigerians think that every Igbo man is actually ready to confront the federal government and federal power. It is not like that. Meanwhile, some of us who are not at the forefront of what is going on become endangered, because when we finish with our life in Abuja, we'll go back to the village. And you don't want to be seen as being anti the thoughts of the average Igbo man. And I kept saying it that time, let the federal government look into what is going on. What are we really talking about? Are we not aware that there's so much injustice in the land? I see politicians talk about zoning or no zoning. You are in a place where your people are butchered every day. You're not concerned about the maladministration. Your own is power must not leave this place. It must go to Mr. Tiaba. No, we're not serious. I've also played at the level of politics, partisan politics. And I realized that even the politicians who are formulating these policies and laws, they don't think about the masses. They think about themselves.
We need to anchor at that point.
Does not think about how it affects Anambra. He thinks about how it affects his position in the National Assembly.
All right. I guess it's something that we'll keep tabs on that and see what next steps they can or will take, having heard several perspectives put up by several persons, including yourself. So we thank you for coming on, Mr. Emeka Tiaba, Senior Advocate of Nigeria.
Thank you very much.